Hey, good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Coming soon. Very excited. We've got a lot of great announcements to make. October 1st, less than a week from now, we will announce the launch date of the For Liberty Network's two brand new shows, Culturama and Liberty Tonight. Yeah. I'm so excited. I've been working so hard behind the scenes to bring you guys something beautiful, something magical, something that no one else is doing unless they're funded by some shadowy mega donor or they are just shills for big government. And the first libertarian network that's going to get out there and compete. And you're seeing us in our early days. Thank you to everybody who's invested, who's plunked down their hard-earned dollars on the line to help me to make this happen. And keep an eye out next Tuesday morning. We will have our special guests to talk about the show launch and to give you a little sneak preview of what's in store for our brand new shows on the For Liberty Network that will be housed at forliberty.locals.com. Thank you, Locals. Thank you, Rumble. How's everybody feeling today? I love you. The Wake Up America show, of course, brought to you by the support of people who don't have to plunk down their hard-earned dollars. All you got to do is click that like button. And if you end up enjoying today's content, and today's your first time watching the show, we'd love to have you be a regular guest 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. So make sure you click the follow button as well. Did you guys see we've been popping up like number one on X in news and politics? In our category, it happens usually briefly because like the Bitcoin guys will come in and they'll have like 53,000 live people, but we are just absolutely killing it. If you're a Wake Up America show fan and a regular supporter and watcher and viewer, just so you know, just you kind of hanging out, being here, being a commenter and liker, you're helping us to get to be number one on X, one of the premier platforms on the world. And I can't thank you enough for all of your support to help make this happen. So thanks, everybody. It's going to be a beautiful day and a beautiful rest of the year. Joe Biden sat down with the ladies of The View and did everything in his possible to help tank Kamala Harris's presidency, it seems.
Okay, I go first.
And we're going to play the clips of that. It's going to be a good time. And then I've also got some of Donald Trump's speeches. One of them kind of like, I don't know, just made me, I'm a Trump voter, but sometimes I don't agree with Donald Trump on certain things. It kind of made me go off in a profanity-laden rant over on X this morning because we're talking about whose job is it? My job, your job, his job? We're going to talk about that this morning, whose job it really is. Is it an American job? Is it an illegal immigrant's job? Here's a sneak preview. It's my goddamn job. I create the job. I sign the checks. Not your job, right? Stay back, all right? It's the American job. It's a legal job. I'll hire whoever I goddamn want. This is America, and I have the freedom to choose, and I pay the fucking checks. I write this. I put my name on the line. It's not your job. Oh, can you please have a job, sir? Right? You ever start a payroll check? I want to have a conversation later with everybody who has ever signed a payroll check. And for you, I will give respect. And no disrespect to those who have never signed a payroll check. Lots of people do fine. A lot of people make more money than me as an entrepreneur, taking money from somebody else, working from somebody else. But if you've never signed on the dotted line and paid a payroll check, paid your workers' comp, paid your mandatory workers' comp, and then paid your payroll taxes every 2 weeks to make sure somebody else has got food on their table, then you got to go over there later, right? And you can listen, but I'm going to talk with the people who have signed payroll checks. It's not a disrespect to you if you haven't done it, but I just want to make sure that that everybody understands where we're at when it comes to this economy. We're going to talk about Mark Zuckerberg entering his libertarian era.
No, God!
What?
No, God, please, no! No! No!
What do you mean? Why are you so upset? Mark Zuckerberg. We should be happy, right? Mark Zuckerberg has entered his libertarian era. In private, Mark Zuckerberg identifies with the Libertarian ideology, sources told the New York Times. Zuck is apparently trying to repair his image with Republicans who have accused him of anti-conservative bias. No. Why would anybody ever accuse Mark Zuckerberg or Instagram or Meta or Facebook or whatever? Why would they ever accuse him of bias? I mean, it's not like I'm demonetized there until after the election. Womp womp. I don't know. No offense, but
it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Thank you, Norm McDonald. If you'd like to send a text to the show, you can. 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586 is the text line. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the news of the day. Is Mark Zuckerberg a real libertarian?
I can first.
Let's see some actions, not some talk. I want to see some people put their name out on the line. I want to see Mark Zuckerberg run for office as a member of the Libertarian Party. I do. Do it, Mark. Hang out with those libertarians for a little while. You'll learn you're not one. We've got a lot of great content and, of course, incredible guests. Cliff Maloney joins us at 7:30. I got 3 amazing guests today. Cliff Maloney joins us at 7:30. To talk about Mark Zuckerberg's libertarian era. And we're going to talk to him about how things are going out in Pennsylvania with the vote, getting out the vote in the Pennsylvania chase. And then at 8 o'clock, we're going to speak to Camelia Peterson. And I know she's got a few things to say about Mark Zuckerberg's libertarian era for sure. But at 8 o'clock, we're going to speak to her a little bit about how to get what you want. And spoiler alert, here's the drop. We're going to give you the juice. We're going to give you the squeeze and the juice. Give you a squeeze, a little squeeze, and out comes a little juice.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm going to come.
I love that all there at the end. It's the best. It's the best. It's the best. Don't forget, guys, if you'd like to unlock today's bonus content, we got to get $60, $60. Give me my $60.
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise? Please.
Can you suck it?
Excuse me?
What?
I can see a lot of social conservatives turning a show like this morning and hearing all these jokes that we're making. They're like, oh, man, I came to the wrong neighborhood.
How dare you?
This is not a podcast for people who get sticks up their butts regularly. This is a podcast for people who come from the upper class sex, drugs, and rock and roll wing of the Republican Party. You know what I'm saying? Like, we love Jesus, but we drink a little. It's the Wake Up America show. So yes, if you can, bless me with something money-wise and head over to forlibertyshop.com this morning. Help us to monetize the Wake Up America show and build our For Liberty network by going to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4, libertyshop.com. And if you... my wife just posted in the chat, if you squeeze me, milk comes out. It's because she has a baby, you perverts.
How dare you?
And help us to monetize the Wake Up America show and create more awesome Liberty content for you, bring you more incredible guests. I mean, think about it. Daniela Pensack, she's been a regular guest on the Wake Up America show for a long time. Now she's getting her own show, and it's because of the financial support of people like yourself. But it's not just money for nothing and the chicks for free. You get 20% discounts at forlibertyshop.com if you're a monthly subscriber. So today's a great day to do that. We need to build a very strong monthly subscriber base so that after the election, if things go wrong, we can still bring you incredible content. You know, things go wrong with the economy, right? We can still bring you incredible content. It's going to be even more important for us to build a Liberty network if Kamala Harris becomes president of the United States. And before you say it can't happen, it can't happen.
No, God, please, no, no, no.
No. So, yeah, the chat is just riotous this morning, and I need to get to the stories. So please do get those Rumble rants in. Even small amounts count, and we're grateful for them, including our friends like Joe Spinella over on YouTube, for example, who just for some reason is extremely generous with us. Even though I think he disagrees with me on a lot of things, I think I see him yelling at me on Instagram about something. But Joe, you're a good sport, and we appreciate you, brother. Our 5 people who watch us on YouTube. If you'd like to support the show, then yes, please. Let's then please go to forlibertyshop.com, make a purchase, help unlock that bonus content today. Joe Biden was asked if he's at peace with his decision to step aside in 2024. Take a listen.
Well, Mr. President, we all agree at this table it's very selfless of you to pass the baton and step aside. There was a perception that perhaps your hand was forced, and some pointed fingers to Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who you have a long relationship with and accomplished many things with. Did you feel that your hand was forced, and what is your relationship with Speaker Pelosi now?
My relationship is fine. Look, I never fully believed the assertions that somehow there was this overwhelming reluctance of my running again. I didn't sense that. And although the polling, as I said, Biden's polling was different, the fact of the matter is my polling was about, we're always within range of beating this guy.
Yeah.
And, what I did was, I think there were, it makes sense. There were some folks who would like to see me step aside so they have a chance to move on. I get that. That's just human nature. But that wasn't the reason that I stepped down. I stepped down because I started thinking about it. You know, it's hard to think of, I know you're only 30, but it's hard to think of, it's hard for me to even say how old I am. No, I'm serious. I don't know what you,
Why is that?
I give my word. It's like, holy God, that can't be right.
So, yeah, womp womp. I mean, he is delusional, right? That he couldn't pick up on the fact that he was not wanted, that they didn't want him there, right? And then, so if you didn't pick it up, I mean, why did you step down, Mr. President? That just strikes me as weird, just very weird. Biden on The View says, I never fully believed the assertions that somehow there was this overwhelming reluctance of my running again. Can't believe I'm reading that. My polling was about always within range of beating this guy. No, I didn't sense that. I was confident I would beat Trump. Well, if that is true, if Joe Biden really didn't sense that there was overwhelming reluctance for him running again, then I guess it's a good thing that they kicked him out for their sake, just because he has no clue what's going on. Very sad. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. This clip, probably the most important one of all, from Joe Biden's interview on The View.
And as vice president, there wasn't a single thing that I did that she couldn't do. And so I was able to delegate her responsibility on everything from foreign policy to domestic policy. And as vice president, there wasn't a single thing
wait. What did you say?
that I did that she couldn't do.
Okay.
And so I was able to delegate her responsibility on everything from foreign policy to domestic policy.
Boom. Okay, that right there might be the kicker for this election right there. Thank you, Mr. President. God bless America.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word.
What's that?
I was going excuse me.
Joe Biden right there may have sunk Kamala Harris's presidency, which I have a conspiracy theory. You know, I don't truck with conspiracies typically, but here's my conspiracy theory. My conspiracy theory is that he hates all of these bastards who forced him aside. He's angry at all of them. And that because he's a petty, vindictive left lib, I think that Joe Biden secretly wants Kamala Harris to lose. Because if you wanted her to lose, that's exactly what you would say. You would tie all of the failed policies of the Biden administration to Kamala Harris and drop her off the end of the dock and watch her sink to the bottom of the ocean. That's exactly what you would say, because Kamala's whole MO now is to say that, like, if you elect me, I will be able to solve the problems of the economy. If you elect me, I will solve the problems, right? And I just need you to give me the power to do this, right? But she's stuck in between a rock and a hard place on that, because she's literally in a position of power right now. He's delegated the authority to her. If Democrats say, well, Kamala's the vice president doesn't have any power, they don't have any power to do this. He literally says right there, let's hear it one more time.
And as vice president, there wasn't a single thing that I did that she couldn't do. And so I was able to delegate her responsibility on everything from foreign policy to domestic policy.
Boom, there it is. Thank you, Mr. President, for that. We appreciate that. I'm kind of shocked that Joe Biden would do that unless his decision was made to say that because basically he wants Kamala to lose. I mean, think about how poorly he was treated by the Democrats and the left libs that were trying to get Kamala Harris in. This was like the worst thing that he could have possibly said in his appearance on The View yesterday. We're going to speak to Cliff Maloney in a little bit less than 10 minutes, but let's watch this interview for a few more minutes and see if my conspiracy theory is correct.
And you passed the torch to Vice President Kamala Harris. What have these past 2 months felt like, and are you at peace with your decision?
I am at peace with my decision. Look, when I ran for this last term, I said that I saw myself as a transition president. Yeah. Transitioning to a new generation of leadership. Now, I know I only look 40, but I'm 180 years old. I've been around forever. And but what happened was...
It's your decision.
We were having so much success in getting things done that people thought we couldn't get done. Right. I found myself having used more time than I would have ordinarily to pass that torch. But working with Kamala, she is bright, she is tough, she's honorable. And the thing I like about her, and the one thing we share in common, is that we have an optimistic view of the future here. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing we can't do, and there really isn't. Anyway, but that's what happened, and so finally I decided that it was better. And I said what I meant what I said. It was the greatest honor in the world sitting behind the Resolute desk as President of the United States, but I loved it, but it sounds corny, but I love my country more.
That's right. That's just an incredible, incredible thing that you did.
I mean, they just laying it on so thick, and the propaganda is so righteously thick this morning. Thank you, Quest Fanning says Biden is asshole. Appreciate that very much. Thanks to Joe Spinella and Quest Fanning. We now have $11 raised towards the bonus content. We just have to hit $60 to unlock the bonus content today. So please do get those Rumble Rant donations in. Quest Fanning is a true patriot, and we appreciate him. And we know he is a patriot because he signed up to be a Peterson's patriot the other day. $17.76 a month. Thank you, Quest. I'm going to be pushing hard for those monthly subscriptions throughout the rest of the year. Just because I know it's feast and famine, January, February, March of next year, I've got to build up that zero-based budgeting, or I got to build up that budgeting. Well, zero-based budgeting, that's a tactic. I've got to build up that base budget for next year so that when the new shows are rocking and rolling, if there's problems with them or they need equipment or software or what have you, like I could really use Adobe subscriptions for them to be able to create content with. We're going to have that base of monthly subscribers. So if anybody out there is feeling generous this morning, can you bless me with something? Go to wakeupamerica.show.com/support and click that support button. You can become a $5 a month subscriber and you get the 20% discount at the shop. If you become a 1776 subscriber or above, you are entered to win in our monthly prize drawings, which we're going to do this coming week. And you're also getting the 20% discount. And if you're 1776 or above, your name is inscribed in the Pantheon and you get on the Peterson family Christmas card list. There you go. For the 1776ers. Cliff Maloney will be joining us live in 5 to talk about Mark Zuckerberg entering his libertarian era. I have a theory about what might have made Mark Zuckerberg start to peel away from the Democrats and inch towards people who watch the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. We'll be right back with Cliff Maloney.
Haunted by high prices and big government? Don't be a ghost of your former self this Halloween. We've got shirts that'll keep the ghouls and the government off your back. Inflation's scarier than any haunted house, but hey, why not turn it into a costume? Or how about our spooky government shirt? Guaranteed to spook anyone who's afraid of too much power. But if you're feeling real edgy, nothing says Halloween like our Michael Myers No Lives Matter shirt. Cause when it comes to big government, we all get slashed. At forlibertyshop.com, we believe in freedom, not fear. So grab your libertarian Halloween gear before the government takes an extra bite out of your wallet. Or your candy. forlibertyshop.com. Let's make Halloween tax-free.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. So glad and thankful to have you here, especially if you're joining us live, but including if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, which we cut and post to iTunes and Spotify later. If you haven't already downloaded it over there, you should definitely do so. I love hanging out with you guys in the morning. I'm always checking out the chats to see what you guys are saying. It's so cool to have people from all over the world who watch us, like Real Hunter Human, who joins us live from Argentina this morning, home of Javier Milei. We're not worthy. Javier Milei, a real libertarian, just like Mark Zuckerberg, right? I don't know about that, Chief. Let's talk about it, though. Mark Zuckerberg has entered his libertarian era. In private, Mark Zuckerberg identifies with the libertarian ideology. He's one of us. 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 So good. So good. Zuck is trying to repair his image with Republicans who have accused him of anti-conservative bias. No, never. Zuck, anti-conservative? What? No way. According to Business Insider, out of the public eye, oh, well, secretly, he's a secret libertarian. He'll send us all to camps for our opinions on COVID, but secretly in his heart, Hitler was secretly libertarian, Joseph Stalin, libertarian. I actually, now that those are jokes, but this is a true story. I actually did a podcast interview with John Bolton way back in 2013. And the point of it was John Bolton explaining to me why he was a libertarian. It doesn't mean anything anymore. John Bolton's a libertarian. Gary Johnson's a libertarian. Mark Zuckerberg's a libertarian. I'm a libertarian. You're a libertarian. Pol Pot, he's a libertarian. I hope he is a libertarian. I hope he is. If Mark Zuckerberg has had a real change of heart, then I say, great. Let's have Mark Zuckerberg. You know what, Mark? I got a Liberty Network you should fund. Or how about you just stop demonetizing everything that I say, right? How about womp womp? How about instead of Mark Zuckerberg taking away money from people like myself and the Patriot whose camera is turned sideways right now over and waiting to come into the chat. Maybe instead of blocking and demonetizing people like me and Cliff Maloney joining us live this morning, right now. Good morning, Cliff.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, maybe instead of demonetizing people like me after the election, Cliff, he could step in and start funding some of our operations. You know what? Mark Zuckerberg's a real libertarian. He should send you a big check for the PA Chase out there. Help Trump win Pennsylvania, right?
He's finally had his libertarian moment. I have to laugh about these because at least he's had it, right? A lot of people never knew anything ever happened at all, right? This is his mild awakening. But honestly, I think it could be a good sign. I mean, I loved your post where you kind of laid out, your hope that, hey, maybe this could be true. And maybe he has had this epiphany. And I do think, the radical left, it'll wake up anybody, and I think it really creates an opportunity for people to see, is this really, what I want to be part of? In my experience, Austin, I mean, listen, I went to college, right? I got a 4-year degree to become a math teacher. I could tell you plenty of stories of kind of this bubble. Now, I love my college experience, but there is this kind of bubble of academia. And I think we just saw it in Matt Walsh's Am I a Racist? This idea that these people are just completely deaf or just unaware of the real world outside of what they've kind of been taught to believe. I think Zuckerberg might just be getting a taste of, hey, I've got all this money. I've got my own mind. Maybe I should start using it. Maybe I should start looking into these ideas. And I think it is. It's a good path, and we'll see where it leads. Hopefully he doesn't get on the rabbit hole of this woke leftist so-called libertarianism that I don't think to be libertarianism at all. I think all the major issues of today, show that there is a drastic difference between those that believe in true free markets but also want to protect our kids. Those that believe in true free markets, but also say, you know what, maybe we shouldn't be bringing in tens of millions of new people into a welfare system, and we should re-examine exactly what it means to be libertarian on border policy. So fingers crossed. And yes, if he wants to write me a $2 million check and I can deploy another 100 people to Pennsylvania, Mark, give me a call. We'd be happy to accept it.
Here we go. Cliff Maloney, the PA Chase. Cliff out there chasing those ballots to help Trump win Pennsylvania. On the Zuckerberg question there, I don't like to play the game of who is and who isn't a libertarian, Cliff. You know, like I posted that thing yesterday. I'm looking at the best case scenario for Mark Zuckerberg, but I've done interviews with John Bolton and he says he's a libertarian. Bill Maher comes out, he says he's a libertarian, right? Gary Johnson's a libertarian. I'm a libertarian. At some point, maybe there's a little gatekeeping. I'd like to see some actions on Mark Zuckerberg's part, but I'm glad we're talking about it. You know, maybe he got tired of getting pushed around. Maybe he realized, oh, I am one of the most powerful men in the whole freaking world. I can almost do whatever I want, and I don't have to be pushed around by these people. And then he sees Trump getting shot at. He says it's the most badass thing he's ever seen. He goes out on his, nobody's forcing him, I don't think. And maybe this is a PR thing, and that is worthy of mentioning in this article that he hired some PR flack or whatever, which is what all these guys do. You and I know. But I don't think, you know, I saw him flying that American flag out on his surfboard or his foil or whatever it was, you know, a few years ago. And then he's starting to do mixed martial arts. He goes and does the most, I mean, I would say anti-leftist to some extent thing possible. And he goes and he buys farmland in Hawaii, and he's doing it for the express purpose of raising beef, which, you know, that is a sin in the eyes of the left, because the cow farts create the climate change, right? But he's doing that. Right. He's doing mixed martial arts. Maybe he's tired of getting pushed around. He wants to fly his American flag. He also doesn't agree with the anti-Israel crap that's coming out of the left these days. I mean, I wonder why, but still, maybe he is. Maybe inside he's kind of like, he looks at Conservative Inc. and he's like, well, the conservatives are, you know, bonkers and insane, and I don't want any part of them. He sees the LP and he's like, they're a little tarded, but then he's like, libertarian, I can still maintain some street cred in Silicon Valley. Could you see this as like the likely scenario? You know, mixed martial arts, beef, all this stuff. No more soy boy.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think of that as critical thinking, right? I mean, dare I plug Joe Rogan or some of these other folks that have kind of gone down similar paths. One thing you said, Austin, that I want all your listeners and viewers to really hone in on is you mentioned how he reacted to Trump standing up after the assassination attempt in Butler. And I think that it should tell us something. Here's what I'm trying to get at, okay? If you're watching MSNBC, if you're watching CNN, if you're getting your news from Lester Holt and some of these corrupt legacy media actors, that wouldn't be your reaction. I mean, think about that, right? Half the country was told by the leftist media that their reaction, you know, this was a small fall that Trump had on the stage, you know, that maybe this wasn't real. Maybe there was just an explosion or something planted on his ear. I mean, this was the weird misinformation, disinformation that we saw from the left. So I really want to highlight that the fact that Zuckerberg has commented multiple times about how badass and awesome it was that Trump got shot in the ear and in that moment stood up and chanted, fight, fight, fight. That has to tell you something about where he's getting his media. Who is he listening to? Because like I said, for half the country, that was not the message. That was not allowed to be thought. That critical thinking, that analyzing the situation, you know, everything was played down. It was dumbed down. It was whitewashed. I mean, think about it now. You know, they don't even talk about it because it's such a good political game for Trump. I shouldn't even say political game, but it's such a heartfelt moment to think about a man running for president who's the nominee for a major party getting shot in the face. So I think you saw that in a lot of how Zuckerberg reacted. I mean, he even said that. So the guy got shot in the face and then stood up. That type of language tells me he's either listening to alternative media, something on the right wing, or he's just thinking on his own. And as I found in life, when you're a critical thinker or somebody who thinks outside the box, typically that leads to libertarianism and free markets and not wanting government to run your life. Fingers crossed, once again, that's the epiphany.
Just as a side note here, Mongoose87 over in the chat, he's kind of one of our regulars. Thanks for this, pointing this out, Mongoose. Says getting caught in a triangle choke can change a man. It's true. Cliff, you ever stepped up? You ever put on a pair of gloves and stepped out on the mat and
I've had some fun boxing. My jujitsu is not where it should be. I've had some fun boxing, but I haven't had what do you call it? A triangle hold?
Triangle choke, yeah. So, have you ever had like a man with like, you ever been teabagged by another man as he crushes the life from you between his legs, and you're just like,
It sounds like that would change a man.
There's something that makes you more of a man by having another man teabag you in the face. All right. But seriously, yeah, I'll tell you, stepping into the ring, there's nothing like that to change you. And that, again, he has the means. He has the FU money. He can do what he wants. So I hope to see a change. And if he's privately libertarian, I mean, you and I both know how this works, Cliff. If he leaves the tribe, I mean, he's in a cult, right? If he's got. Think about being in Mark Zuckerberg's position in California at Meta headquarters and your entire content management team to make sure that people like you and I don't get a little too much reach that day. All purple-headed weirdos, purple-headed people eaters. And he's got the knife to his throat proverbially. Yes, he's got FU money, but he could face a revolt on his staff out there. So, I mean, I don't know, like blink twice if they're trying to kill you. You know what I mean? There's a powerful incentive, a counter pressure to Mark Zuckerberg that would prevent him probably from taking any action, even if he had any sympathies, isn't there? There's a machine.
Yeah, and let me throw out two other theories or things that I've been thinking through, as I've seen him make these statements. Number one, I think Elon Musk has set the stage. Right. I'm not saying that Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk have the same mindset, same critical thinking skills, the same philosophy. But if there's ever somebody that has kind of, chopped a little path in the forest here, it's Elon Musk to show you, listen, I might have a team of liberals, but at the end of the day, I'm the boss. I make the decisions and I'm going to speak freely and I'm going to change my company to allow for that. Now, I think Zuckerberg has a lot of things that happened in the past that he has to figure out ways to not just atone for or apologize for. But I think he's having that self-reflection moment. I think Elon Musk gives him that opportunity or that path to follow. The second thing I'll say, Austin, this is something a lot of people are saying pretty aggressively online, but I think there's some truth to it. He sees the writing on the wall and he understands that, listen, Trump is going to be back in the White House. This whole woke mind virus, that we've all danced and played around with is now on the decline. He probably doesn't think it's out the door. But I do think that he sees that Trump is going to be in the White House, that Kamala Harris is not somebody that people are excited about. And I don't think he fears going to jail, as if you're seeing that online. But I do think he's smart, and he's a smart businessman. He's built one of the most successful tech companies in American history. We're on it daily. And I think he's kind of coming to his terms that, hey, this could be a Trump White House. And where do I want to be on that? And even if he just moves to neutral, which right now he's kind of, promoting himself as when you say libertarian, I think he's hedging his bets. And I think he's probably doing it correctly because I do predict that Donald Trump will be the 47th president of the United States.
Don't do this to me, Cliff. Don't give me hope. Just when I thought I was out, you suck me back in. I'm speaking to Cliff Maloney. He's a former Rand Paul staffer, joining us live here on the Wake Up America show. He's the head of the PA Chase and Balance in Pennsylvania. If Trump wins Pennsylvania, then what Cliff Maloney has said will come to pass. And as the rabbi says famously, from your lips to God's ears, Rabbi, Cliff Maloney is a leader for liberty. We've known each other for a very long time. He sent me a picture of a panel we did together some like dozen years ago or something like that, back when I had more hair and it was less gray.
That makes two of us.
Yeah, it's been a long road in the fight for liberty, Cliff, and a lot of times people come and go. There's a lot of old names and faces that didn't make it this far, right? And you and I, we've kind of like shown our resilience and our willingness to continue this fight, even when our ideas are unpopular. Because I'll tell you what, Cliff, back during the Tea Party years, it was like sunny days, picking up gold, laying on the ground for liberty, fertile fields, and many of them have gone fallow. So we look for any opportunity we can to try and make hay when the sun shines. Javier Milei of Argentina has been a big bright spot for libertarians around the world, but let's face it, we're kind of lacking in Javier Milei's here in the United States. Charisma is something that we libertarians lack, and I don't think Mark Zuckerberg is really doing anything to sort of help the, we're not all autistic vibe that a lot of people get from libertarians, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Autistic robots, cyborg robots, free market. But Cliff, I want you to pull
I will
a
make
rabbit
one.
out of your hat. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me make one comment on that. So I love telling this story. So when I got hired by Ron Paul and worked in his congressional office, two stories based on what you just said. So the first was, I was this kid in Western PA studying to be a math teacher. And after a couple weeks, I got this internship for Ron, and I got to meet him, got to work with him, got to go to these subcommittees on domestic monetary policy. I got to meet Ben Bernanke. That was a very weird experience. I don't talk about that often publicly. Some threats tend to come with that in the comments section. So anyway, I asked them, I said, why did you guys hire me? And they said, Cliff, you're the most normal libertarian we've ever met. I should have known then, Austin, what I was in for in this movement. But on a serious note, you bring up Dr. Paul and you bring up kind of this awakening to libertarianism by Zuckerberg. When I left Ron's office, when he was retiring in 2012, I was a staff assistant, bottom of the barrel, making welfare wages in Washington, D.C. I sat down with Ron and he said, so you're really going to go be a math teacher? And I said, yeah, I'm going to go finish my degree. I'd love to teach. It's something I'm passionate about. And I'll never forget, he looked at me and he said, Cliff, he said, there's one problem with that. I said, what? And he said, once you've been exposed to the principles of liberty, you're not going to be able to quit. He says, and you understand, reaching other people, and you understand that you've kind of got a moral obligation. He says, you can do your work, but you're always going to do this on the side. And he said, don't be surprised, if you come back and find yourself doing it full time. And now it's funny, a decade later, he was absolutely correct. And in Pennsylvania right now, we think this is the battle of our lifetime. Austin, as you know, we've got 120 of these full-time ballot chasers on the ground, knocking 500,000 doors. We just crossed 150,000. If folks want to get involved, pachase.com. Ballots are going out now in Pennsylvania, but I need to get these guys on the ground fully funded. 175 hours is a full day of ballot chasing. PA Chase app, if anybody wants to come to Pennsylvania. If you can't, that's okay. You can send text messages, you can send postcards, you can make calls. The interface is great, super easy. An 85-year-old grandma can figure out our tech. PA Chase in Android and Apple, and pachase.com. Love the battle we're fighting and hoping to win Pennsylvania for Trump.
Absolutely. And the Wake Up America show is doing our part, especially with the fact that we just crossed over into first place on X this morning live. #1 live show in our category on X. I'm glad more people are able to hear the message of liberty shared by Cliff Maloney from the PA Chase. It's very exciting to see the success of the Wake Up America show, because it gives me the opportunity to showcase the ideas of people like Cliff Maloney and Camelia Peterson and Daniela Pensack, who will be joining us a little bit later on in this show. Cliff's mission here is righteous: to adopt the tactics of the left while not adopting their principles at all, as many right-wingers unfortunately have done. But to chase those ballots down and to get those, to ensure that the Democrats don't have the advantage in Pennsylvania like they did in 2020. So in terms of the spread, Cliff, I saw yesterday you said, remember this number. What was the number and why did we have to remember it? You posted over on X.
Yeah, so here are the numbers everybody talks about. They look at polls, right? Well, I look at polls as kind of the third indicator. Obviously, the #1 indicator to winning an election is votes. Okay, whoever has the most votes in each state is winning those states' electoral college votes. But I think there's a much better indicator than polls, and it's in these states like Pennsylvania, where they have these new rules where you get to request a mail-in ballot. So in Pennsylvania, January 1, it resets every year. You have to request a ballot for both the primary and the general. So tracking those results, because that's all public information, it can really give you a nice deep dive or a sneak peek behind the curtain at who's doing well and what are the projected results going to look like. And so if you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at 4 years ago compared to today, this far out from the election, okay, I'm talking about as of today, Kamala Harris is down 360,000 raw Democrat requests. So 360,000 less Democrats have requested a mail-in ballot now compared to 2020. Republicans are only down about 70,000. And so the number is roughly 289,000 in terms of the net better position that Donald Trump is in now than he was 4 years ago. And Austin, everybody screams at me, Cliff, there was a pandemic. Don't you know about COVID? Yeah, I got it, buddy. Sit down, tighten your Birkenstocks, relax, look at the data. I happen to be a math teacher. I'm not doing this for my health. The point is, there's a net gain. Both parties had a pandemic then. Both parties don't have a pandemic now. So you have to look at the difference. And so the drop off showing that there's a net gain of 289,000 mail-in ballot requests in the right direction for Trump. Sure, all those people could vote on election day. But as Democrat strategists have learned and have taught us by us looking at their strategies, it's much harder to vote when you have one election day versus 50 opportunities of mail-in voting. And so I look at all these numbers, pair that with the idea that we've cut registration, their registration advantage, Democrat to Republican, from 700,000 to less than 350,000. We've cut it in half. I would much rather be us than them. We've still got to turn out all these voters. But if you're looking at the math, if you're looking at the statistics, the indicators show optimism and hope if you're rooting for Donald Trump to win Pennsylvania, which we know will win the White House.
Cliff Maloney fighting for our American rights. Over here hanging out with us on X, where we are #1. Thanks so much, Cliff, for all you do for freedom. Where can people find out more about what you're doing and follow you online?
Sure, I'm on X at Maloney, just like Madonna. It's just one word, my last name, at Maloney. And you can go to pachase.com. Even if it's $5, every dollar you donate goes directly towards the ballot chasers' pay, their housing, or their gas. 100% of every dollar donated. pachase.com. Austin, got to plug you. Your show is awesome. It's great to wake up with you. It's great to hear the message of free markets. And I appreciate everything you do for this cause. We need more like you, sir.
Thanks, Cliff. We appreciate you very much, brother. What you're doing, it's the Mutual Admiration Society for sure. Thanks for taking some time out of your busy day to join us and to keep our friends informed on what happens out there. We're going to keep an eye on things, Cliff. And if Pennsylvania comes in for Trump, we're calling you up the next morning. So you better be ready to be on the Wake Up America show the next day, because I know they're going to want you on Fox News and Washington Times, and all of our buddies are going to be calling you and stuff like that. You better give us like 5 minutes or something the next morning.
Well, I'll do you one better. I want you to join us on election night. We're going to do a big X Spaces. So come on and join us. Would love to have you. For now, I got to get back in the field. We got ballots to chase. I'll see you, Austin.
Do it. Chase him, Cliff. See you later, brother.
See you guys.
Let's give Cliff a round of applause.
What COVID was the very embodiment of the female worldview, which is unable to balance risks and benefits. It is unable to think soundly about economic matters. It believed that you could substitute a government check for private enterprise, that the government had the capacity to make judgments about what's an essential business and what's not an essential business. Ask a worker, is your business essential? Yes, it's essential. Ask a consumer. And a belief that we were not adequately comparing the risk of COVID to heart disease and cancer. COVID deaths did not even come close to those deaths, which we take for granted. So I just felt like, in March, we already knew everything that needed to be known about COVID. We had the mortality data from Italy.
Yes.
They found that the average age of decedents was 80 with 3 comorbidities. Nothing changed. And yet we pretended that this was a disease that put young people at risk.
Gina. It's the Wake Up America show. It's a great show, and I'm glad that you've just decided to join us live this morning. If it's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, this is a 5-day-a-week, 2-hour live talk show, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Yes, that's right. We're in God's country, Missouri, but in the cursed land, the swamp of Jefferson City. Yes, so Jefferson City is the swamp of Missouri. But otherwise, Missouri is a great state. The Ozarks, blue rivers stuffed with fresh rainbow trout, and beautiful women, if they're not meth addicts. Like my next guest, Camelia Peterson, a fellow Missourian. She's going to talk to us about Mark Zuckerberg's Libertarian era and about some advice if you want to get what you want. Spoiler alert, shut up. We'll be right back on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
Unlocking the Wake Up America show's bonus content. This program launched 3 months ago and has been a major success in helping us to build the new For Liberty Network. New photo shows UFO hovering over Canada before it was shot down by. A newly released image shows the UFO shot down by a U.S. fighter jet over Canada in 2023, adding questions and uncertainty to the object floating over the Yukon. The grainy, blurry photo captures the cylindrical suspected balloon 40,000 feet above the Great White North. The UFO was taken out by a U.S. F-22 fighter jet, which had been tracking it over Alaska 8 days earlier. It was finally shot down on February 11, 2023. The object had crossed into Canadian airspace, prompting Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to order its takedown. An American pilot struck the object with an AIM-9X missile. Initially described as a small metallic balloon with a tethered payload, it was one of several unidentified objects spotted over North America around the same time. Between February 10th and February 12th, 3 objects were spotted floating over North America and subsequently downed over Alaska, the Yukon, and Lake Huron. These objects were smaller than the suspected Chinese spy balloon shot down over South Carolina on February 4th, 2023. The Canadian government had initially planned to release the photo of the Yukon UFO, but held off. The Department of National Defense had declassified and approved the photo for public release. However, military leaders were seeking a better image to share. The Department of National Defense was on track to release the image until the acting Assistant Deputy Minister for Public Affairs raised concerns. Officials debated whether releasing the image would create more questions and confusion, given the current public environment and statements labeling the object as benign. It was later recommended that the Canadian department wait on the release pending U.S. engagement, which led to the photo remaining unpublished for over a year and a half. President Biden confirmed the objects were shot down, but stated there were no suggestions linking them to China's spy balloon program or surveillance vehicles from another country. Searches for debris from all 3 objects were conducted, but both the Canadian Mounties and the U.S. halted efforts days later. Poor weather conditions and slim chances of finding the debris were cited as reasons for not continuing the searches. The uncertainty surrounding these incidents continues to fuel speculation and curiosity among the public. The decision to withhold the image has only heightened interest. Many are eager to understand more about these mysterious aerial objects. Official statements and actions have done little to quell the growing curiosity and concerns. The image, although grainy and blurry, has sparked a wave of intrigue and speculation. The conversation about unidentified aerial phenomena remains vibrant, with many questions still unanswered. The release of such images could either clarify the situation or deepen the mystery. The debate over transparency and public access to information continues. Both the U.S. and Canadian governments are under scrutiny for their handling of the incidents. As new information emerges, the public remains keenly interested in the unfolding developments. The Yukon UFO incident is just one part of a broader narrative involving unidentified aerial objects. Each new piece of information adds to a complex puzzle. How governments manage and share this information will likely impact public trust and understanding. The story of these mysterious objects is far from over. Future discoveries and disclosures will undoubtedly add new dimensions to this fascinating saga. Until then, the public remains engaged, questioning, and eager for more answers.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. It's a network. It's so huge. There's people running around everywhere. Actually, thankfully, Nelson decided to come in and start helping me set up the cameras and stuff like that. For the last 2 years, I've been schlepping it, man. But now we've got a network. 2 brand new shows that I'm producing coming this fall, October the 1st. Next week, we will announce the launch date for Culturama and Liberty Tonight. I'm really excited about it. I've started producing commercials for the shows, and they're starting to look great. Their equipment has come in. Thank you to everyone who has been a regular viewer, who has clicked like, who has followed the channels. Thank you to Rumble. Thank you to Elon Musk. We're over on X this morning, #1. Thanks to the success of the Wake Up America show and the donations from people like yourself, the purchases at forlibertyshop.com. We're launching a network, baby. I'm tired of people who suck speaking for me. And now Mark Zuckerberg's got $1 billion. He's going to go out there and be like, I'm a libertarian now. No. We need some real libertarians to run this stuff, right? Exactly. Real libertarians. Like my next guest, who's from Missouri, but who is not addicted to methamphetamines. Camellia Peterson joins us live this morning. Hi, CJ.
Good morning from Southwest Missouri. And no, I've not gotten drugged down into meth culture. So
yeah, no, but you've tried a little blow, right? A little snort a little booger sugar, maybe a little PCP, angel dust.
No, are
Heroin?
you kidding? Look at my innocent face and like seriously, do you think I would do that?
Camellia, I deem thee to be not a real libertarian. Yes. Okay, so Mark Zuckerberg says that he's a libertarian, or at least not he says it, his people who are around him say he's entered his libertarian era. I can kind of see it, right? It's like he does martial arts. He creates a cattle farm, like leftists hate that. He flies the American flag when he's out on his surfboard, and he's tired of getting pushed around because he's got FU money. So he wants to say FU. Is this a scenario that we could, Javier Milei, Mark Zuckerberg, I don't know.
I mean, so, I know that sometimes I've been told I'm intentionally naive sometimes, but that I am a huge believer in redemption and people's ability to change and transform and self-actualize. And so, sure, why not? I mean, I was thinking about that this morning. And so we have the character arc of Elon Musk, right? That has just been, a wonderful thing to watch. Because it's funny because, the difference I think between Elon and Mark Zuckerberg has been that Elon, by virtue of his tweeting and whatnot, or posting, we've been able to watch that in real time because he's been very open about everything. There's a lot that's been happening with Mark Zuckerberg that we don't necessarily see that process with him as much. And also think about these moguls that have been in social media, like Jack Dorsey, Dorsey's gone, libertarian too, posting Murray Rothbard and, all kinds of things. So I don't know, maybe it's just, with the experience they've had and both with, government interfering with their businesses and wanting and, putting pressure on them. And then maybe, when you reach a certain point in your life, you reach a certain age, you start reevaluating things. And if you have children, I don't know that Jack Dorsey has children. I have no idea actually, but, Zuckerberg and Elon both have children. And so that also changes your perspective on things.
It absolutely does. Speaking of changing your perspective, Joni Rankin over in the live chat says, I want to do shrooms with Camellia. That sounds fun.
Oh, gosh. Okay. I have never tried shrooms, but, if I was going to try them with anybody, I would definitely do that with Joni.
Yes. And
She would be fun.
Make sure you lace my shrooms with a little fentanyl. Just kidding.
Oh, boy.
Just kidding. Camellia, Mark Zuckerberg, in an ideal world, does a full turnabout and comes around and starts actually putting his money where his mouth is when it comes to things like libertarianism is more than just about neutrality, right? It's not really about neutrality in the sense that it's only very specifically that the government should be neutral, not that the rest of us should be neutral, right? If he's trying to back away from the Democrats and play both sides, act like he's like above it all or whatever, he's really just going to end up right back in left libertarian land with a lot of the rest of them who don't take stands on culture issues except for their Fortransing the kids and Chase Oliver and all this kind of other crap. And maybe it would be better if Mark Zuckerberg were supporting the Libertarian Party than the Democrats, obviously. But still, at the end of the day, I want to see somebody like that put their money where their mouth is. And you could start by not demonetizing people like myself. I don't know if you've ever been suppressed on Facebook, but it was kind of a big deal when I ran for Senate, Camellia, here in Missouri. I think you remember. I drew a crappy childlike drawing of an AR-15 on a piece of paper. It was scratched in with marker, and I got banned for that. A picture of an AR-15 on a piece of paper that I drew, and it was terribly drawn, and they banned me for that. And it's I was running for federal office at the time. So he's got a lot to do if he thinks he can just get in people's good graces, especially with what we've seen out of him in recent years. I don't know. What do you think?
And is there really anything that he can do to make up for all of that? Because I've seen the comments online that, if you really are turning over this new leaf, then go back and, make it right with all of the libertarians and the other people that you've censored and banned. Well, how do you do that, right? You can unban people, I guess, which is what they started to try to do with X, but there's no way to go back and make up for all of those things that were done where people were wronged. So I think that, it's not realistic to expect that, but I do think that it is realistic to expect to see change moving forward. And even if you remember when Elon bought Twitter, like there was this period of time where people were like, yes, he's going to like free the platform and whatever. And then 2 days later, they're like, oh no, they're censoring people again and banning them or whatever. There was just kind of this ebb and flow back and forth for a little while until things pretty much kind of leveled out. And now every once in a while, still somebody is like, oh, why are you banning this person or whatever, or suspending their account? And that's, things happen, but it's not nearly like what we saw before. And I think that most people on the right, and libertarians and conservatives both, are pretty happy with the way Elon is running X now.
Absolutely. I mean, and of course, I love the way Elon Musk is running X. How could I not? Are we still number one? Yeah, still number one.
Hey.
Still the one. We're going to get taken over, though, because the Bitcoiners have arrived. It's usually around this time that the Bitcoin to the moon people, and there's like 50,000 people in there who watch that. But it was fun while it lasted. Thank you, Elon. I get a little thrill up my leg whenever I see us on top of the charts, Camellia.
Well, maybe you should do a collab with some of the Bitcoiners one morning, and then you can, yeah.
There you go. Dual stream. That'd be awesome. Camellia, let's talk about something at which I do not excel. If there was a test for this, I would get an F. I had good grades in school, but if you asked me to shut up and graded me on it, I think I would be the worst student in the class. I never shut up. My mom used to sing, "You talk too much, you never shut up. You talk too much, you never shut up." But maybe shutting up sometimes can be useful in getting what we want.
I have been told I'm the expert on this. Or so somebody posted on Twitter. Yes, well, I don't know. Should I speak here or not? Or maybe I should just shut up.
That's the lesson, right?
Know my place as a woman, right?
Exactly.
I'm supposed to be, silent.
Exactly. After coronavirus, after COVID-19, the way that things went down in that womanly style approach that we took to it, I'll never trust him again. No, but Camellia, give us the context for this. I mean, it's a Wall Street Journal piece. They're talking about getting what you want. And, when I get nervous, you know what I do?
Sure. I think a lot of people do. Well, people have different reactions, but this is, by the way, we'll try to drop it in the chat afterwards, and maybe on Twitter too. But this is an excellent article, by the way. It really goes through the power of silence and how we do have a tendency to want to fill empty space with somebody has to be talking. And if the other person is not talking, I need to fill that space, or people are uncomfortable with silence. But this walks through the power of the pause and the power of silence in not only, several different aspects, right? One is that you actually are more effective if you are not speaking, because we have a tendency to be thinking about what we are going to say when somebody else is speaking, right? We're thinking about our response the whole time, and that prevents us from really hearing the other person and listening to understand. And also there is how it makes the other person feel when we are speaking to them. It affects that as well. So people can tell when you are genuinely actively listening to them instead of just waiting for your turn to say something. So not only is it good relationally, but it also kind of from the power side of things, when you pause, that can be a power move. When you let the silence sit, because that puts a certain amount of pressure on the other person to keep talking, right? Because you're
Oh,
then
yeah.
using it as a tool because of that pressure that they feel to fill that space. And
I used to have to practice this, especially for debates, because I would work very hard to formulate or craft the perfect question. And when you talked, if you kept talking or if you brought up too many other points, then the person could just dismiss something else that you said and then not address whatever is like the hardest charge that you'll make. So I used to have to train myself to say exactly what I wanted to say and then stop and just shut up and just wait for the other person to respond. And 9 times out of 10, that person would respond to the question that I asked directly, unless they were a slippery goose and they would, wiggle out of your hands and, just change the subject, as expert communicators will do. But one of the things that I've probably done and been guilty of in my life is to kind of talk myself out of a win. Like, you've already kind of gotten what you wanted or what you needed, but you'll continue to blabber, right, going on until you've actually edged yourself out of convincing the person to do what you wanted them to do, because you push too hard, you talk too much. Sometimes you just need to set that big old sausage on the table and just let it out there for everybody to see and comment and just, gauge their reactions, right? Body language.
Sure, of course. And it works too that, if you are, it works the other way too. Like, if you're trying to get something, like I've had it happen before where if, we were having a discussion about whether or not I was going to do something, and eventually, like, the other person just talked themselves into me doing it, right? Because you do allow that space for them to keep sort of rationalizing what they're doing. But that can work against you too if you're the one doing that. You try to keep filling that, and then you end up presenting like there's too much, right? You present the arguments that then start working against you. So, and I think especially in pressure situations, like whether it's a negotiation for a contract or whether it's an interview, for a job, like those especially are situations where we're feeling pressure to perform and to sell ourselves. And so we feel like we need to constantly be saying something because that's what we're there to do, right? I was waiting for it.
Right. It is. I'm speaking to Camellia Peterson this morning. We're talking about the fine and lost art of shutting up. You can follow her at Rare Camellia. To be the boss, you got to be quiet, says Daniel Hamburger, who spent years as the CEO of education and healthcare technology firms. He once sat across the negotiating table from an executive who was convinced his company was worth far more than Hamburger wanted to pay to acquire it. What Hamburger desperately wanted to do was to explain all the reasons behind his math. What he actually did was throw out a number and then shut his mouth. So, business negotiations, you want to be the boss, you got to shut up. I also like this part in this article from the Wall Street Journal where they talk about this day without speaking, right? Staying mum can feel like going against biology. Humans are social animals. Our method of connecting, and we crave it, is talking. I literally do this for a living. But many students found that when they're forced to listen, they bond better with their peers. It might be a fun experiment, Camellia, on a day that I don't have to do a podcast, to try just being a listener, a good listening, try one day where you listen more than you talk. My old campaign manager, Jeff Carson, actually used to do this. He said that whoever talks the most loses. Whoever talks the least wins. And whether it's fundraising, getting a job, or just trying to have better relationships with people, I found that pretty much to be true. Have you?
Sure, absolutely. When you talk about in a work setting and how a boss uses, if you're going to be a good leader and a good boss, I mean, they also talk in there too, like if you're sitting, if you've got everybody in a team meeting and you're sitting around the table, everybody expects the boss to talk, right? And the thing is like, if you want actual involvement from your team, you need to sit there and be silent so that they have the space to feel comfortable saying something, because somebody will eventually say something, because nobody wants to sit there in silence. But it's also a good way to encourage and communicate to your staff that that what they have to say is important and that you value that. And I think that makes for a good company or organization, no matter what it is. But yeah, it's that idea that everybody wants to be heard. Like, when, especially, the work I do in grassroots engagement and politics, but this is also just life. Like, people just want to know that they are heard and understood. And if you're too busy when you're speaking to them, just waiting for your turn to say something, or give them your advice or whatever it is, or tell them your own experience or your own story with something, then they are left feeling that, right? They don't feel like you are genuinely interested in hearing what they have to say and understanding them as a person.
Man, do I ever struggle with this, Camellia? I thought it would be a good topic because it really does relate to absolutely everybody. And that's what this show really is about. Whether it's a political topic or a cultural topic, I hope that we can have conversations that will really make people think on the Wake Up America show. And that's why I bring you here on the show Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8 a.m. Central Time. So if you're in love with Camellia like Dad Bod Baboon, he's got a crush, man. When she's wearing those glasses, he's like, va va voom. Thirsty Thursdays is the place to be. Daniela Pensak's going to join us here at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. You like that commercial that I made for her show, Culturama? It's not quite finished yet, but
yes,
it's exciting,
it's going to be so awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I just hope that I hope the podcast is as good as the commercial was,
Yeah, no pressure, Daniela. She's great. Like, the content she already puts out, it's just it's different. She's just got her own niche, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, it's just a perfect blend that I don't think anybody else is really doing. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, she's got a good sense of humor, but she's not like comedic in the sense that you would traditionally think. She's not like a clown or a jokester or whatever. But I mean, every once in a while, she'll very dryly offer you some humor.
Yeah, a little bit of highbrow stuff.
Highbrow, yeah. Coming. It's like you gotta kind of be smarter than the average bear to get it. But I think that it's a great niche, and the retro 1950s radioactive fallout theme I think is going to play really well for the audience, and the merchandise is going to be the shit.
Yeah, that's gonna be sweet.
I think people will like the merchandise even if they don't watch the Culturama with Daniela. We're gonna have her on, and then we've got Liberty Tonight. Now, you haven't seen what I've seen from the two guys, and like I've been working on them, so I forced them to do comedy sports improv. Right. So that they're playing, King Libertarian and Brian Piotr. So they're having to play these games with each other to kind of like work on their comedic timing and their chops. And it's going to be like, a Tonight Show style theme. Bro, I was laughing so hard at this video that they produced. And it was Kamala Harris's School for Accents. And it was like advertising a new school where you could learn all the accents that Kamala Harris does, right? So you can get elected. And they were cutting the clips and posting them in that video. And I was just like, this is going to be a funny show. I can't wait for people to see that too. So a Liberty Network. So I guess that leads me to the next part, which is I think everybody wants to know is, when are we going to start Politics and Pies? Your podcast, your show.
Known that was coming, right?
Right.
We'll have to work on that. I figured I was getting some breathing room since you've been so tied up getting these other two going, and then that'll streamline the way for us, right?
I have a feeling that Camellia, that they would throw money at your face, right? Just like, right. Have you ever seen that GIF of the woman and then all the hot dogs are being thrown at her face, and she's like,
"Oh my word!"
Yeah, that'd be like you, but except with cash. All right, I'm just teasing Camellia.
This is a good time for the power of the pause.
Shutting up.
Yeah.
See, if I don't make you blush, then was Camellia really even on the show if she didn't blush? Andy Opperman says, now we're asking the real questions. Exactly. Irv's mommy's taking off. She's going to get some sleep. Thanks for joining us, Nancy. We appreciate your time and energy this morning. I'm speaking to Camelia Peterson. We are always hanging out with Camelia Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 a.m. Central Time. So come back and join us if you like what you hear from Camelia Peterson. So we've covered Mark Zuckerberg's libertarian era. We've talked about the fine art of shutting up. I have an employee, and when the work is done, for me, the work is done. Gen Z seems to recognize this concept, but I will say that in my generation, as a geriatric millennial, the idea that I might ask my boss to go home when I'm done with my work is kind of like, no, when you're done with your work,
Right.
you just sit there and you stare at the computer screen until someone tells you what to do, even if it's for 4 hours. But apparently Gen Z has no compunctions about being like, can I just leave?
Right.
Good for them.
Right. So we do talk sometimes about the negative aspects of, are they, socially adapted, to function in the workplace and their expectations and things like that. But there are some good things that Gen Z, I think, has been bringing to the work mindset. And it's this idea that you need a good work-life balance. That is something that some of us are really bad about, right? And it's also this idea that you also, if you're going to be entrepreneurial and if you are doing what you love, you don't really think about it in terms of hours. But like that, if you are working smarter, like the idea that you work smarter, not harder, I'm so on board with that, right? I remember growing up, my dad would always tell me that he was the laziest man in the world because he was always looking for an easier way to do something. And like, there's nothing wrong with that, right? That's working smarter. You're creating more value for your time and effort and energy. And I think that should be encouraged. So the idea, with Gen Z, that they're like, look, I've done everything I've been asked to do. If there's, if we're good to go, then why sit here, right? And I think a boss who recognizes that will be nurturing a very productive workplace where people feel like their time is being used in a way that creates value, and that their time is valued to their employer as well, because nobody likes to do performative work that is not, that you just feel like you're doing something that's just for no good reason, right? So there's really something to, I think there is something to this. And, I do think that, like, there needs to be that balance, right? Because the reality is, as you well know, if you are going to, create a business and be entrepreneurial, like, I know people have no idea how, like, you probably work all of the time. Your days are probably like 16-hour days because it's all the time. And one of the things I thought about when you were talking with Cliff Maloney earlier, and he talked about how that when he was leaving, Ron Paul's office, and he was going to go back and get his degree and teach math. And, Ron Paul was like, you'll be back, right? Because, once you've been exposed to it, once you've been bitten by the bug. And that's true. I find that in myself too. And I have to watch it because I love what I do. And because these are things that I feel like create lasting value and have an impact on other people. It is like, it's hard for me to know where to like draw the line to not be working all the time.
Yes. And it's reasons like that I'm always like, hey, Camelia, hey, Neil, let's go down to the river and let's go do some canoeing, right? Or I called Joe and Vince and Mark and I'm like, hey, let's go to Florida for a few days. Let's go scuba diving with some fishies underneath the water. I teach karate on Wednesday nights and I try and talk about it, even including a little bit more in this show to not just like talk about something else, but also show you a little bit more about who I am personally. But you have to have that aspect of you. You have to have the problem. I think a lot of times is that people will make their work their whole personality. And some people it kills, like bankers, for example. I know some banker from Bank of America died like a month ago because he did like 100 hours a week or something. And so there's this big discussion in the banking industry about like letting their junior bankers go home at a certain point. Cause it's kind of like Stalin where everybody's clapping and nobody wants to be the first person to go home in that industry. Right. And I get it. It's a tough industry, but we're all human beings. And it can be difficult when you're an adult, especially to like take some time away and ensure that you're doing healthy things for your mind and for your body. So Andy Opperman over on the chat dropped $10 in, said, if you're getting paid by the hour, you got to put in the hours. If you're getting paid by the job, you are done when you're done. Most are uncomfortable with the risk of not working hourly. That's an interesting point of view there, Andy. Thank you for that. It's true.
Sure. Right. I mean, it is like, and so, yes. So I think that part of what we're talking about too, especially applies to people who are salaried. And so that is like, that's true, right? You know, there is a difference between hourly and a salaried type position. And I think the challenge for employers when it comes to hourly is, are their employees producing enough value for the time that they are putting in for that, right? That's always the struggle for an hourly job. And salary tends to be, I mean, it's the same question, but you are definitely prone to going the other way with things too. And that the expectation a lot of times for salary people ends up being that you work, 60 hours a week or more, just because you can, and because there's always something that needs to be done, right? And so this is, and by the way, that makes me think of something I don't know how many people are aware of, but the Biden administration created a rule, whatever they call it, like earlier this year, that nobody's really been talking about it, but it affects employers with salaried employees. And essentially, there is like a base rate to comply with fair wage laws or something like that, so that a salaried staffer has to make a certain amount. That amount rose at the middle of this year, and then it's rising again at the end of this year. So it is like, and not by just a little bit. We're talking about like the minimum salary is rising by like, I think over the course of this year is close to $20,000.
Interesting.
I don't know how they can do that, but but it kind of feeds into that. I understand the idea for making sure that people are not getting, overworked and underpaid, but are we sitting in uncomfortable silence? Probably more uncomfortable for your watchers than it is us.
I'm not uncomfortable. Are you uncomfortable? I'm fine. Camelia Peterson, I love you, and I'm so grateful for all you've done to help us be a success on the Wake Up America show. Where can people follow you online?
My favorite platform is Elon's, so you can find me at Rare Camellia on X.
Rare Camellia on X. She is very rare. We'll see you next Tuesday, Camellia. Have a good one.
Yeah, have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks very much. That's Camellia Peterson. She's the best. Coming up next, Daniela Pensac, continuing our Thirsty Thursday. Are you thirsty? Daniela will be joining us next, the host of the Culturama podcast, talking to us about, where's the rundown? AP. Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's husband, scores again with some insider trading.
Unlocking the Wake Up America show's bonus content. This program launched 3 months ago and has been a major success in helping us to build the new 4 Liberty network. New photo shows UFO hovering over Canada before it was shot down by. A newly released image shows the UFO shot down by a U.S. fighter jet over Canada in 2023, adding questions and uncertainty to the object floating over the Yukon. The grainy, blurry photo captures the cylindrical suspected balloon 40,000 feet above the Great White North. The UFO was taken out by a U.S. F-22 fighter jet, which had been tracking it over Alaska 8 days earlier. It was finally shot down on February 11, 2023. The object had crossed into Canadian airspace, prompting Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to order its takedown. An American pilot struck the object with an AIM-9X missile. Initially described as a small metallic balloon with a tethered payload, it was one of several unidentified objects spotted over North America around the same time. Between February 10th and February 12th, 3 objects were spotted floating over North America and subsequently downed over Alaska, the Yukon, and Lake Huron. These objects were smaller than the suspected Chinese spy balloon shot down over South Carolina on February 4th, 2023. The Canadian government had initially planned to release the photo of the Yukon UFO, but held off. The Department of National Defense had declassified and approved the photo for public release. However, military leaders were seeking a better image to share. The Department of National Defense was on track to release the image until the acting Assistant Deputy Minister for Public Affairs raised concerns. Officials debated whether releasing the image would create more questions and confusion, given the current public environment and statements labeling the object as benign. It was later recommended that the Canadian department wait on the release pending U.S. engagement, which led to the photo remaining unpublished for over a year and a half. President Biden confirmed the objects were shot down, but stated there were no suggestions linking them to China's spy balloon program or surveillance vehicles from another country. Searches for debris from all three objects were conducted, but both the Canadian Mounties and the U.S. halted efforts days later. Poor weather conditions and slim chances of finding the debris were cited as reasons for not continuing the searches. The uncertainty surrounding these incidents continues to fuel speculation and curiosity among the public. The decision to withhold the image has only heightened interest. Many are eager to understand more about these mysterious aerial objects. Official statements and actions have done little to quell the growing curiosity and concerns. The image, although grainy and blurry, has sparked a wave of intrigue and speculation. The conversation about unidentified aerial phenomena remains vibrant, with many questions still unanswered. The release of such images could either clarify the situation or deepen the mystery. The debate over transparency and public access to information continues. Both the U.S. and Canadian governments are under scrutiny for their handling of the incidents. As new information emerges, the public remains keenly interested in the unfolding developments. The Yukon UFO incident is just one part of a broader narrative involving unidentified aerial objects. Each new piece of information adds to a complex puzzle. How governments manage and share this information will likely impact public trust and understanding. The story of these mysterious objects is far from over. Future discoveries and disclosures will undoubtedly add new dimensions to this fascinating saga. Until then, the public remains engaged, questioning, and eager for more answers.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Thirsty Thursdays continue. You know, this show has been so successful. We're #1 on X a little bit earlier before all the Bitcoin people arrived. Not saying anything bad about Bitcoiners. And 2 years later, after we launched the show with like 20, 30 people watching us live in the morning, now thousands of people tune into the Wake Up America show live, and I am extremely grateful, especially because of your financial contributions. I've been able to produce now 2 new shows coming this fall to our new 4 Liberty Network. And the host of my next show, joining us live for her regular Thursday spot, Daniela Pensack, host of Culturama. Hi, Daniela.
Hi, Austin. Thank you for having me this morning. I am really excited to talk about the topics that we have today.
Me too, Daniela. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for getting your Zoom fixed at the last minute there. Some of that technical stuff we're still working on. It's challenging, isn't it?
It's a little bit, trial and error, but I'm getting the hang of it.
I'm glad to hear that, Daniela. And we'll talk a little bit about Culturama and what we have to look forward to for your own brand new show coming here very soon. But let's talk about Paul Pelosi, husband of Nancy Pelosi. This has become a big topic lately, but when you see the incredible, spectacular, miraculous even amount of money that Nancy Pelosi and Paul Pelosi have made in the stock market, I mean, they outperform Warren Buffett. So what's this story, and break it down for us?
Yeah, so Paul Pelosi has apparently sold his Visa stocks just 3 months prior to the DOJ suing that company for essentially monopolizing the credit card industry. And somehow he had what seems to be pretty good knowledge in what would have happened. And maybe this relates to the fact that, he is married to a top U.S. politician and congressperson. But there is kind of like some weird details going on there. And but Paul Pelosi has had radical success with the stock market. He has pulled in over $40 million in the past. So he seems to be privy to a lot of information, or just essentially really good at what he does. And but they think this more so relates to the fact that Nancy Pelosi has stalled on bills in the past that were meant to prohibit congresspersons and their spouses from trading in the stock market. And Nancy Pelosi, you know, for some reason just really stalled on that. And maybe it has to do with the fact that her husband has been raking lots of money. So it brings into question a lot of things like whether congresspersons should even do this, whether their spouses should do this. People of Nancy Pelosi's own party, such as Elizabeth Warren, has tried to push legislation to prohibit this, but it seems like the Pelosi's aren't really big on that for whatever reason.
Yeah, I saw an article in the Wall Street Journal that said that Nancy Pelosi and her husband have a higher success rate of picking stocks than Warren Buffett, like the sage of Omaha, the Oracle, and somehow they managed to get better information. Do you think this should be illegal, Daniela?
Yes, absolutely. I think it should be because, I mean, voting, imposing taxes, regulations, it has direct impact on how the stock market will operate and how it will perform. And so obviously they're going to have insider knowledge as well. The spouses are going to have insider knowledge. And honestly, I think that this is truly the real threat to democracy. The Democrats have been pushing this idea that, you know, January 6th, Trump supporters, the Trump administration are all major threat to democracy. But really, I think this is the real linchpin here as to what is actually going to prevent certain bills passing and, you know, affect the legislation and the track record of certain congresspersons. So really, this is, I think, the main issue here. And major big name Democrats like Nancy Pelosi don't even want to consider that for some reason, but they will go ahead and gladly attack Trump and Trump supporters for, you know, threatening the integrity of our election system for whatever reason, but they will stall on bills like these.
It is amazing how so many of these Congress people, they go into office, and many of them, they're not rich people, right? They just happen to win they happen to win a popularity contest in their hometown, and they're making $200,000 a year as a congressperson, and they are multi-millionaires, and nobody even thinks to ask questions about that. What's really sad too is you have people like Bernie Sanders, who their entire career is spent railing against capitalism. Meanwhile, he's hanging out at his third lake home in Vermont, and they're just such hypocrites. Daniela, why don't they see it? Why don't regular people see this?
Why don't regular people see this? Well, I mean, that's a really good question. I think it's a multifaceted answer. For the most part, I think people are just largely uninformed on the issue. You know, I'm gladly there's some more conversation and discourse being had on this online. But in the past, I just don't think people were as informed, or rather, they also deify their own legislators or their own congresspersons, perhaps. You know, it's sad and embarrassing when people place all their faith in a politician. You should never do that. Obviously, people, when they do get into larger positions of power, they're going to use that to not only grift themselves, but attain as much money they can for themselves and their spouses, for their families, because at the end of the day, Austin, everyone really cares for themselves. That's why I consider myself a radical individualist, because I think at the end of the day, we only really care about ourselves. You know, we come into this world alone.
Right. You're not gonna, you're honest about it. You're not like, I believe in all of us and we the people, and you know, this land is your
You're never
land.
gonna catch me saying, I mean, maybe for rhetoric's sake, but in certain situations, but you're never gonna hear me say that.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? Huh? You think you fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in all that has come before us, unburdened by what has been, right, Daniela?
Unburdened by what has been, yeah. I say that to myself to fall asleep. It's very soothing.
I'm speaking to Daniela Pensack. She's the host of the new Culturama podcast coming this fall. We will announce the launch of that show on October 1st, so make sure that you do follow her channel over at rumble.com/Culturama when you get the updates about when the new show drops. That's what it'll be. The updates for if you want to be in touch with Daniela or myself and see all the behind the scenes things that are going to be going on, you definitely want to follow our locals page at forliberty.locals.com, and you'll see the link to that underneath the Rumble show that you're watching right now. If you're watching us on Rumble, you'll be able to find our locals page, forliberty.locals.com. Speaking of radical individualist, I never thought that after years of being suppressed and banned and censored and demonetized and delegitimized, and I'm literally running for federal office and I'm being censored on this platform, I never thought I would find myself standing in arm in arm as a fellow libertarian with Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, I really hope he's right here and where he's being honest. I am a very cynical, skeptical person, Austin, so I don't know if he's really libertarian quite yet. I honestly think he's just trying to curry the favor of right-wingers, the right wing in the United States, and also the potential Trump administration, so he could bypass a few imposing regulations from the FCC and the CDA or the oh, I forgot. It's called the Communications Act.
FCC,
that was passed. Yeah. I think the whole net neutrality issue is the major issue here. But hopefully, maybe he's right. I do know that he's hired a Republican strategist to help him help his PR communications here with right-wingers and right-wing media outlets, but we'll see how he goes.
Yeah, whatever could have given him the impression that he wasn't on right-wingers' side. Is there any reason why conservatives could be upset at Mark Zuckerberg?
I stopped using Facebook for years because of this, especially after January 6th when he really cracked down. I think that's when he suspended Trump and his profiles from Facebook. So, since then I haven't really used it. I've been zucked quite a few times, maybe like 2 or 3. I know many people that have been zucked into eternity. So I just lost faith in Facebook. And yeah, obviously there's a lot of reasons as to why it's hard for me to believe that he actually is libertarian or wants to be right wing. I don't know what's going on there. It's really weird. I've heard that he's called Trump twice over this last summer. He's also called him badass over the phone. So, he's really prostrating himself here to get the favor of Trump as well.
Probably
just in case something happens.
Probably out of fear, right? Insurance policy.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But
yeah.
if you're going to do that, why be libertarian? Why not just be, Republican or right wing or whatever? So it would be conservative. It's a lot safer.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. I think he's doing this because libertarian is more safe.
For him? Why is it safer? Libertarians are tards. We're autistic. What's wrong? Why would it be safer to be one of the
that's exactly the reason why he wants to be libertarian.
Why? Because he's a robot. He's a cyborg from outer space.
First of all, he wants to appear more human. So he is going to say that he's libertarian.
Ideology, Danielle.
Right.
He wanted to appear more human. He chose the wrong neighborhood for sure.
Oh, okay. Well, I honestly think that claiming to be libertarian, it's because first of all, you have leftists that call themselves libertarian as well.
Sure.
Obviously, a lot of right wingers call themselves libertarian. I think that he is trying to appease the favors of both sides here. Calling himself right wing is clearly a partisan position, so that's going to also lose, some favorability as well. So I think he's just trying to take the middle ground here. I don't know. You see, I'm not really concerned with Zuckerberg's private political delineations. I don't really care about that. What I care about is how he's actually going to, run the platform. And that's what I'm really worried about. Yeah. So hopefully we're going to see some major changes here, but
Mark Zuckerberg,
I'm really skeptical about what's going on.
Mark Zuckerberg owes me a lot of money. Back in 2013, I quit my job to go work for myself to start this business, Stonegate Pictures LLC. That's the one that's going to be signing your checks, right? When your, monthly subs and all your stuff starts coming in. And I started my business on a wing and a prayer and a blog. I just had a blog at that point, the libertarianrepublic.com. And because I of merit, before everybody was getting zucked, before the great destruction, the great algorithm crunch of 2013, which I don't know what you were doing then, but in 2013 I started my business. I was making $15,000 a month, Daniela. I was raking it in because I knew how to create content that people wanted in a way that they wanted to read and see in their feeds, and I became a master of social media then. But now the only thing that holds me back, and you can see, like, I was trending on #1 on X earlier today. I did yesterday. I did a couple of times last week. When my voice is allowed to get out there, like, I can kill it. Like, I can show people how great a job I can do at producing content and fighting for liberty and my ideals and my principles. But when I'm on Instagram or when I'm on Facebook and I'm trying to do the same thing, and Meta, I went from making $15,000 a month and starting to hire employees and create an enterprise 10 years ago. that I had to put on the back burner because it went from 15 grand a month to $1,000 a month. And it was because they took the money and all of the attention, and they gave it to Time Magazine, Vice Magazine, Newsweek, all of they chose a set of publications that were considered to be okay to push out there, and they took away our ability to see and hear things like what you and I talk about on the show, and what your show Culturama will talk about on Rumble and Locals and on X.com. And if they're lucky, the other platforms will get our amazing content.
If they're lucky. Exactly.
He's got a long way to go, Daniela, though, to prove to people like myself, because it wasn't just that he destroyed my financial livelihood, but when I ran for office to try and campaign against this kind of shit, right, and then losing my health insurance because Obama promised I'd get to pay for it, and I'm starting this small business, and he screws me over and quadruples my insurance premiums. Then I'm running for office, Daniela, and he censors me on that platform where I had my biggest audience at the time. And I'm literally a candidate filed for federal office, and I can't communicate with my constituents or anybody. And he thinks, oh, I'm a libertarian now. He's going to come crawling back. I want to see some deeds. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. That's what I mean. I don't really believe him. He is a lizard person at the end of the day. And lizards, as far as I'm aware, don't really have a conscience. So hopefully he is human and he will make some changes to meta platforms. But I pretty much gave up on meta platforms altogether, Austin. I mean, I do use Instagram to post pictures of myself, really. But Facebook, it's been so boomerified. I can't really use it anyway. But, you know, maybe he does see that. He also sees that the platform is dying a little bit, or a lot of bit, I suppose, for the last decade. And maybe he's trying to revitalize it as well. But hopefully that if the Trump administration does come to power, we have the Trump regime back in the United States, that Mark will make some considerations to actually play ball with both sides of the political aisle. So, you know, his platform can actually survive.
There we go. And speaking of platforms that survive, we're back to the #1 spot on X this morning. Yes. I don't know if I can pull that up along with the picture of Daniela. Daniela's going to be a little tiny in the screen here. Let's see if I can pull this up, show you here. You guys can see there on the right-hand side is Mark Zuckerberg, a real libertarian, #1 on X.com this morning. The Bitcoiners, I guess, shut down their stream, so they have blessed us. They have blessed us. Thank you very much to Daniela Pensack for joining us live this morning. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. If so, click the like, subscribe to the channel. Show them that we've got merit over here at the For Liberty Network's Wake Up America show. Daniela, I'm really excited for Culturama. I get a little giddy when I'm working on your commercials and your content and what we're gonna produce for the audience. I know you might be a little nervous because of how tricky some of this technical stuff is, but you're getting it down. And content wise, I think you're just going to absolutely kill it. So many people tell me how highly they think of you and your writing and what you're doing online. And I can imagine that you're probably really excited to finally have this platform for yourself, a place where you can really air your views one-on-one in a format that's really kind of built for you. I imagine you're excited.
Oh, I'm extremely excited, Austin. What I'm most excited about is to see the audience that I'm going to cultivate and, you know, have parasocial relationships with, because it's always fun for me to watch streamers and, you know, see them interact with their audience and build a community. And that's always been really interesting to me. And so I'm really excited to do that as well and just talk to people, you know, because we don't really have enough of that, especially with people like Zuckerberg in the past that have prevented that and, you know, imposed censorship policies. But I want to make the best of it. I do want to build a community and actually have free speech on my show. So I'm really excited to do that.
I'm excited to see it too, because I think that you have a really unique point of view, and I think you're a great writer. And if your show is anything like the musings that you have on your Substack, I think people are really going to love it. And I'm thankful that you chose to work with me. We're business partners now, and we're going to work together to make Culturama a cultural force.
Oh yes, we are. We're trying to change the zeitgeist here in the United States, in libertarian circles, in right-wing circles, and hopefully maybe even left-wing circles as well.
There you
But
go.
I don't know if it's going to be as deep of musings as in my Substack. Maybe it will be at some moments, but I do want it to be accessible to everyone, so everyone can enjoy. So we'll be talking about a myriad of topics, whether it's really complicated and philosophical, or political fun and jest.
So if people want to find out more about the show and get updates when it does go live, which we'll announce on October 1st, so less than a week from now, they should go to rumble.com/Culturama. But for a personal plug, if they want to find you over on the other free speech platform, it's going to be Pensac Daniela over on X. But the network itself will be hosted on Locals at forliberty.locals.com. That's a lot of plugs, and I know you're only supposed to do one at a time. But for those who are really curious in our project, those are the places to check out. Rumble.com/Culturama for the actual show videos, forliberty.locals.com to interact with the network, and we will stream there, of course, as well. So, Daniela, I guess fingers crossed. We're hoping to get this show launched soon. We will announce those days on October 1st. Is there anything else about these topics or about your show or, that you're working on, something you'd like to share with our audience that maybe we missed today?
Well, you just mentioned all the plugs, Austin, so I'm not going to say that. But yes, follow me on X, and just stay tuned until when the launch date what the launch date is on October 1st. I'm really excited, and I hope to see all of you people watching on my show when it does launch.
All right. I'll see you at our next production meeting on Sunday morning, bright and early, Daniela.
See you, Austin. Thank you.
Have a good one. Have a great day. Thanks very much. Isn't she great? Make sure you follow her over on x.com, the host of the new Culturama podcast. You guys excited? I know I shouldn't do this, but I kind of want to give you guys like a real sneak preview. Like, I don't know. Do you guys want me to you've been really good. I tell you what, we've got like a little bit less than 10 minutes. So we get one more Rumble rant or YouTube super chat before the end of the show. I will give you guys the sneak preview of the trailer or the teaser promo for Daniela's new show, Culturama. You want to see it? Before we go, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. You've got 2 minutes. Actually, you've got 3 minutes and 35 seconds. This is how long the sad music is for the end of the show. If we get a Rumble rant by the end of the show, then I will play for you the trailer for her new podcast. Do you guys want to see it? Tell me. Camille's seen it. I will show you the awesome new trailer for Daniela Pensac's new show. And I'm queuing it up right now in case we get a Rumble rant. Any Rumble rant amount before the end of the show. And you guys will get to see it. There it is. Kermode did it. Now, let me set it up for you here on the screen. I'm not sure if it'll set it up appropriately, but let me turn off the quiet music. You did it, Kermode. Thank you very much. Here it is, the trailer promo for Daniela Pensac's new show. Hope it gets you guys excited about it. Here we go.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensac. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
There it is, guys. It's not quite complete. We'll have the times and dates of her actual show in there once everything's completed, and we'll play that, of course, here on the Wake Up America Show's website, and we'll get it out everywhere. You guys excited for that? We got to hope that the show's as good as the trailer. You guys got to see the sneak preview because you guys are the ones who get up early. You join us live on the show. You support us. Thank you to all the financial donations. Thank you, Camelia, Robbie, and Kermode there for stepping in at the end. Those little bits and bots. You think, oh, $5, it's not that much. It adds up. It makes a big difference. It helps me to produce more content like that. Because, you know, you know what I feel kind of guilty about sometimes, talking about your career? Sometimes I'm having so much fun doing this job that I feel guilty, and I'm kind of like, is this legit? Like, am I really doing this? You can actually make money doing this? Should I be doing this right now? Should I be I'm having too much fun. Is this work? Right? If you love your job, you never work a day in your life. But you know, I do love my job, but I am working many, many days in my life to bring you the best content, the best shows, the best guests, the best topics, the absolute best shows that are out there. The For Liberty Network. You got to be seeing it right at the very beginning. You knew me when, and Daniela when, and the two new guys, Brian and King Libertarian when, for their new show, Liberty Tonight as well. They're next on the commercial. We're going to produce their commercial coming up this week too, and I think you guys will really enjoy it. I hope you will. And I'm grateful for your friendship and your financial support and everything you do to help us to make liberty great again. We'll see you guys here tomorrow, Freedom Family Friday, with my smoking hot redheaded libertarian wifey, my beautiful little redheaded baby, on the Wake Up America show's Freedom Family Friday on the For Liberty Network. See you guys.
Unlocking the Wake Up America show's bonus content. This program launched 3 months ago and has been a major success in helping us to build the new For Liberty Network. New photo shows UFO hovering over Canada before it was shot down by. A newly released image shows the UFO shot down by a U.S. fighter jet over Canada in 2023, adding questions and uncertainty to the object floating over the Yukon. The grainy, blurry photo captures the cylindrical suspected balloon 40,000 feet above the Great White North. The UFO was taken out by a U.S. F-22 fighter jet, which had been tracking it over Alaska 8 days earlier. It was finally shot down on February 11, 2023. The object had crossed into Canadian airspace, prompting Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to order its takedown. An American pilot struck the object with an AIM-9X missile. Initially described as a small metallic balloon with a tethered payload, it was one of several unidentified objects spotted over North America around the same time. Between February 10th and February 12th, 3 objects were spotted floating over North America and subsequently downed over Alaska, the Yukon, and Lake Huron. These objects were smaller than the suspected Chinese spy balloon shot down over South Carolina on February 4th, 2023. The Canadian government had initially planned to release the photo of the Yukon UFO, but held off. The Department of National Defense had declassified and approved the photo for public release. However, military leaders were seeking a better image to share. The Department of National Defense was on track to release the image until the Acting Assistant Deputy Minister for Public Affairs raised concerns. Officials debated whether releasing the image would create more questions and confusion, given the current public environment and statements labeling the object as benign. It was later recommended that the Canadian department wait on the release pending U.S. engagement, which led to the photo remaining unpublished for over a year and a half. President Biden confirmed the objects were shot down, but stated there were no suggestions linking them to China's spy balloon program or surveillance vehicles from another country. Searches for debris from all 3 objects were conducted, but both the Canadian Mounties and the U.S. halted efforts days later. Poor weather conditions and slim chances of finding the debris were cited as reasons for not continuing the searches. The uncertainty surrounding these incidents continues to fuel speculation and curiosity among the public. The decision to withhold the image has only heightened interest. Many are eager to understand more about these mysterious aerial objects. Official statements and actions have done little to quell the growing curiosity and concerns. The image, although grainy and blurry, has sparked a wave of intrigue and speculation. The conversation about unidentified aerial phenomena remains vibrant, with many questions still unanswered. The release of such images could either clarify the situation or deepen the mystery. The debate over transparency and public access to information continues. Both the U.S. and Canadian governments are under scrutiny for their handling of the incidents. As new information emerges, the public remains keenly interested in the unfolding developments. The Yukon UFO incident is just one part of a broader narrative involving unidentified aerial objects. Each new piece of information adds to a complex puzzle. How governments manage and share this information will likely impact public trust and understanding. The story of these mysterious objects is far from over. Future discoveries and disclosures will undoubtedly add new dimensions to this fascinating saga. Until then, the public remains engaged, questioning, and eager for more answers.
Haunted by high prices and big government? Don't be a ghost of your former self this Halloween. We've got shirts that'll keep the ghouls and the government off your back. Inflation's scarier than any haunted house, but hey, why not turn it into a costume? Or how about our spooky government shirt? Guaranteed to spook anyone who's afraid of too much power. But if you're feeling real edgy, nothing says Halloween like our Michael Myers No Lives Matter shirt. Cause when it comes to big government, we all get slashed. At forlibertyshop.com, we believe in freedom, not fear. So grab your libertarian Halloween gear before the government takes an extra bite out of your wallet. Or your candy. forlibertyshop.com. Let's make Halloween tax-free.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.